Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Insights with C5 Insight. My name is Emily, and I'm joined by my colleagues Malcolm and Patrick. And today we are going to be diving into the 2023 Wave 2 release notes. We're all going to speak to a few features that we're excited and looking forward to. I actually am starting off by mentioning a deprecation that's coming actually that I think will be valuable for everyone to know about if you haven't already seen. The Dynamics 365 app for phones, or Dynamics 365 phone app, whatever it's actually called, doesn't matter because it's being deprecated as of January 2024. So you and any, especially if you're a consultant or working with clients and customers, they may start seeing a notification pop up when you log into the app now, prompting to download the Power Apps mobile application. So just be aware of that. I did download that application and it is a bit of a smoother UI. I don't know if either of you have had a chance to download it and start using it. It looks a bit nicer. I haven't personally noticed any performance improvements, but I've heard that that's part of the reason of, coming with the deprecation, but just something to be aware of there. I'm going to pass it over to Patrick, though, to speak to a few features that he's looking forward to.
Yeah, so I've been working with marketing a lot lately, so I thought I would take a look at what's coming up, and there are two big things. So one of them is actually kind of the tail end of Wave 1, beginning of Wave 2, and that's around the name of the app. So I thought it was worth mentioning, especially on the coattail of your deprecation announcement. So we finally got our heads wrapped around D365 marketing as the name of the app, but starting what is next week for our recording date, so September 1st, 2023, coming up, it's no longer going to be D365 marketing. Now, I'm not quite clear on what that's going to look like when people log into their apps, but I do know they are taking the current existing customer insights app and the marketing app, and they're not necessarily going to mash them together, but they kind of are. So what was called customer insights will now be D365 customer insights hyphen data. And what is currently D365 marketing will be retooled to be called Dynamics 365 Customer Insights journeys. And the idea is to bring that together. So what we're going to see in Wave 2 is an enrichment of the type of customer data that will be available to build marketing journeys. So I think that's where it's coming from. Cool. And then combined with that, and this is a larger conversation I think we're going to have, is the real push around Copilot and generative AI technology that Microsoft's trying to bring into the whole suite of D365 apps. And so that's really what we see coming in Wave 2 where marketing's concerned. This name change and a real focus on using Copilot as we're developing different tools within the marketing app. So those are kind of my big things. I'm not going to go into the granularity of how to use Copilot throughout the app, but it's going to be sprinkled throughout, and you'll know you're stumbling upon it because you're going to see a little Copilot. I think it's a hexagonal icon that's kind of a bluish purple blend. So you'll see that there and lots of annotations around, hey, try just using natural language to describe what you want to do. And Copilot's going to help you do all the coding to make that happen. So you don't even have to do drag and drop stuff anymore. It's going to present it to you and give you a choice to accept it or not.
It's all magic.
It's easy. Yeah.
It's magic. They're magic buttons.
And Copilot is everywhere. It's in all the things. It's a good segue. Yeah, right? And we were looking through the release guide, and if you haven't yet looked at the release guide, I know that it's early. It's still stuff that's just getting into early access and whatnot, but it's always important to stay focused on what's coming. If you can bake it into your routine somehow, right? If you run on the treadmill, while you're walking on or running on the treadmill, read through one of the apps and see what's coming. And it doesn't take long to do, just something to kind of keep it at the forefront. I had picked sales, but was immediately overtaken by all of the Copilot stuff. So to your point, Patrick, it's being woven into everything, which isn't a surprise with all the hype about generative AI and what it can do and how it can support. But I actually intentionally picked two things that were not related to Copilot just because it's everywhere. And so let's take a break from that for a minute, talk about sales. Two little things that jumped out at me, well, not little, big. One, particularly selfish perhaps because I'm wicked impatient when it comes to waiting for the application to load. And these guys know better than anyone. Late in the afternoon, I find CRM kind of lags a little bit, and I hate it because I try and enter. We use it for timing and all that kind of stuff, and it drives me bonkers that I can't and I have to wait. So they're making some enhancements in the sales app in particular, where the load times, the kind of the back end engine. So it's one of those kind of back end under the covers features that's going to be enhanced, and it's going to improve on the UI side by letting the navigation and the forms and everything load faster. So sign me up. I'm all in on that. Anything you can make.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right, to make it faster. Of course, that doesn't negate the fact that you still have to be mindful as an admin or an architect not to load your forms full of things that are just heavy in terms of load. That's still going to have an impact no matter what they do to it. But nice to see that they're giving some attention to, hey, let's make sure that this loads quickly. The other big thing, we at C5, and we've talked Insights with C5 Insight about sequences. And so I think actually, Emily, you and I did one a while back. We talked a bit about this, and you had referenced what seemed like so far away, hey, this idea that you can do multiple sequences. And so that's coming out in this wave. Still a while away because it's December. But to Patrick's point, we're almost in September. So December will be here before we know it. And so that's a really cool feature because we love this concept of sequences. We've been doing it manually with workflows and whatnot and Flow for a long time. So this idea that you can now take a sequence and you can have a sales focused sequence and perhaps a customer service sequence at the same time and be able to have visibility into what's going on with the customer, I think is super cool because it's a long overdue, even though sequences has only been around for not too long, but it's an overdue feature because it's a great function that I think a lot of organizations and divisions and teams can leverage. So those are the two things that I picked. Yeah,
and that helps with the collaboration as well, right? Of like,
absolutely,
because I'm sure there's going to be many instances where, to your point, it's either multiple teams or it's perhaps one sales team, but there might be a senior manager versus a regional manager, and you would have to have that collaboration. So it's a great feature.
Yeah, and to the point of like I said with my opening comments, if you don't review these review notes regularly, you should bake it into your habit somewhere, or don't, and just at least take our advice and jump to them right now, and just have a quick look through what all the features are, because there's great stuff, and Microsoft has really transformed the way they make sure that we're well aware of what's coming, and some great detail. When the early release comes out like this, there's not a lot of images, and that'll change. So keep going back to them because they'll start to give you snapshots of what things are going to look like, which is really handy, especially for visuals like Patrick and I. I learn best visually, and so when we see what it's going to look like, I get even more excited because I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. So yeah, so if you don't take time to do it, if you take one thing away from this video, it should be you got to find a way to spend some time with those release notes as they come out.
And, I'm telling all of the system admins I work with on my projects, I'm like, if you're using Outlook, go in and put in a recurring meeting that is on a day of the month at a time and just get into the habit. Even if you have to not do it because something at work happens and you've got to take care of that because it's obviously more important. It's just, you'll never do it if it's not on your calendar. That's what I found for myself. And I'm telling all my system admins the same thing. I'm like, you just have to commit to this because it's the only way to keep up.
Exactly. Yeah. And to that point as well, if you have the ability to, or if you have access to a sandbox or some sort of dev environment where you can enable the Wave 2 release, using that in conjunction with reviewing the release notes and actually getting to play with any items that are available, that is definitely another key takeaway from this as well. So Wonderful. Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
thanks so much for tuning in. And I'm sure we'll have follow-up calls, specifically, I'm sure, about Copilot in the future. So stay tuned for those and look forward to chatting more then. Bye.